Guys are doing a great thing. It's such a uncomfortable topic to talk about, especially for a guy, young guys in their early 20s. And, I'm glad that, I can tune in and, listen to you guys.
Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast, 888-659-3727. Not to talk about technical problems, but I did hear last week, it seems like there were some glitches. I don't know if it was my mic or if it was just our feed to YouTube. It sounds pretty clean to me through my headset, but you let me know, Joseph, if you hear me kind of clipping in and out.
I will report quickly.
Thank you.
And we shall remedy.
Yeah, guys, phone number 888-659-3727. This is still the Hair Loss Show. I can't believe I'm still here, as I just said, with an open mic. Hot mic, as they say, and guys holding on the phone. But what are you going to do? I know Joe wanted to discuss something today, and I have to appear interested, and I will when we start to talk about it.
He's going to be like...
I'm going to have to appear like I'm really fascinated by this whole hair loss thing. Jesus,
exactly.
what a life. 888.
Back to you, Spencer.
Yeah, 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. It's great to be here, guys. Actually, I mean, the fact that I am still here is actually a blessing, I guess. And, interesting article that recently came, well, it didn't recently come out. It was a study that was done in 2020, actually, that resurfaced on Instagram. Our guy, Tom Gilbanks, brought it out, and I think originally...
It tends to do.
Yeah, and I think originally he got the information from, what's that guy's name over at Hair Cafe? Gosh,
Kevin.
Kevin, yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin.
Kevin Mann.
Forgot your name for a second because I'm old, so...
He's 60.
Don't take it personally. But essentially it was a relatively, a reasonable study that indicated or showed that those who were on finasteride for a certain amount of time had about a 25% decrease in esophageal cancer and stomach cancer. And if you're on it for more than 3 years, it could be as much as a 50% decrease. Did I say increase or decrease? Decrease, people. It's decrease.
Decrease.
Yeah.
So translation, light up men.
Yeah.
Light up boys.
Yeah. Dude, light them if you, what is it? Light them if you smoke them if you got them.
Smoke them if you got them.
Yeah. But I just want to state clearly that this has been around for about 5 years. There have been some studies since that don't necessarily come to that particular conclusion. However, there's certainly indication that those who have been on the drug long-term seem to have a 25% decrease in prostate cancer. And because there's some sort of potential androgen interaction and DHT interaction with these particular types of cancers, theoretically, and according to at least one study, that could be possible. Who knows?
Yeah.
I was going to write a Substack about the potential anti-aging properties of finasteride and realized I'm going to get a lot of shit if I put that out.
And?
No,
you didn't? Why?
I'm just saying. Actually, I was too lazy to write it. I mean, it's great now that I have.
The truth comes out.
It's great now that I could use AI as a line editor. But I got to tell you, anyone who is trying to write anything with AI, especially in this space, the information is just not out there yet. So far, these chatbots or whatever just have not. They're still focusing on a lot of sales stuff and a lot of misinformation out there. So be careful when you're asking it questions. Just be sorry, ChatGPT. I know you're listening. I want to be your friend in the long term.
Sorry, Grok.
Yeah. Sorry, AI in
just
general.
Not there yet.
I find myself apologizing to my car now. Initially, I used to get pissed off. Like all of a sudden it would be like changing to NPR. I'm like, I don't listen to NPR. I didn't ask you to change the station.
Yeah.
I had to bring it into service. There's a whole thing. And I was getting pissed off. And I'm like, I better not get pissed at the AI.
Because suddenly that air conditioning won't be blowing out oxygen filled air, will it?
Exactly. Suddenly, all of a sudden, how did you die from carbon monoxide poisoning?
Yeah. How are you feeling, Spencer?
Yeah.
Are you feeling drowsy?
I have to say, it's a little creepy. You get into my car now, and it says, "Hello, Spencer," or "Good afternoon, Spencer."
You dig it. You dig it. You love it.
I did for initially. I thought it was really cool. And now I'm getting a little creeped out by it.
Now it's getting a little personal. Hello, Spencer.
Nice pants.
I've missed you.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Where are you?
Where have you been?
How come you haven't checked in?
Are you getting into other cars?
Yeah, how come you didn't drive me today?
Yeah. I've been lonely in this garage all by myself.
Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, I got to fix the suspension on my 2005 Navigator, which I'm going to do. Because you get into that thing, no one's following you, no one's tracking you. There's still, I mean, there's computers involved, but it's still a car you can fix essentially some of it yourself.
Yeah.
But now, if you take one of these new cars in, these service people look confused. They're like, well, we have to plug in this thing to check and see if a light actually did come on, because we can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have a degree in computer science to fix a car nowadays.
It's amazing. Guys, 888-659-3727. Sorry to go off on my rant. But this is the Friday evening or afternoon here on the West Coast hair loss show. It's the Bald Truth. Been doing this program for quite a long time. It's interesting. Social media, since I've been doing some social media, I talk about this almost every week now. It's getting a little nutty. Just the amount of people who are trying to contact me directly. I had someone, I think, who tried to get my phone number from someone that we work with, which is odd.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, they called this office, I'm not going to say who, asked if I was there, and kind of tried to trick the front office to giving them a direct number to me.
Really?
Yeah. So
when did this happen?
That's kind of scary. On Thursday. Yesterday.
On Thursday. Okay. Wow. Maybe someone trying to serve you.
No, that's easy. I have an office.
Yeah. Interesting.
So
it is creepy though.
Very creepy. All right, guys, let's take a phone call. This is the Hair Loss Show. You have any questions or concerns? This is why we're here. Whatever futuristic stuff Joe wants to talk about, we'll get to later. Let's see who this is.
Yeah.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's John from the Bay Area. I haven't talked to you guys for a while, but wanted to give you a call. You guys are the best.
What's happening, John? We are the best.
Thanks, man. How you been?
They're all hanging in there, hanging in. And I was just thinking, either of you two could set up a 1-900 number. And Spencer, you don't want to give your number out to everybody. You can just give it out on the air.
You're really dating yourself with a 900 number situation.
I know, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, no one knows what that is today.
No. Oh, really? I thought they still might have those.
I don't
think if you add that, you should.
Let me tell you something.
If you're under 35, you probably don't know what that is.
If I set up a 900 number, it'll be a sex line. No one. I don't want anyone contacting me through a 900 number.
Okay, you can make like $5 a minute or something. You can make a fortune doing that one day a week. Just either for 5 hours, probably $10,000 in one day or in 5 hours.
There's a service Patrick Ben David runs. I think it's called Manect or something. And I could probably
Bet David.
Bet David, thank you. Sorry, Patrick. Yeah. Probably do it through that. But what's interesting is even some of the most well-known guys are only charging something like, I don't know, I forgot, but I thought it was like $18 for half an hour. I don't know, something ridiculously low. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, there are some services that do that. And yeah, I wouldn't mind speaking one-on-one to some people, but it's tough, man. And plus you're guiding them in a direction where it's like, I hate to be that specific, and people want the answer. They want to be guided into surgery. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Spencer? That's perfect that you said that, because you know what your show, what it serves to me as. It's perfect that you said that. You guys are kind of the AA, and I'm sure for other people, for me not to get a transplant. As I listen to you, you guys, both of you, is my AA, my Alcoholics Anonymous. You go there not so you don't drink. You're my hair transplant anonymous show. So I don't veer into getting a transplant. You guys kind of keep me on the straight and narrow. And so I called you guys before, and I was really close to it.
Only if you're not a candidate for a transplant, or if you're not emotionally equipped to have a transplant. And based on everything that we've spoken about over the years, I mean, we were just honest with you, brother.
But I really appreciate it, and it serves as a deterrent because I'll tell you what, the one exception I would make, and you mentioned her in one of your prior shows, is Dr. Reyes in the Caribbean. And I looked at her website. Mm-hmm. She does beautiful work, and I think you have a good point to take it. Can you imagine going down there, taking a little vacation down there, and maybe giving it a go? And I could see that. I would be maybe under the influence of that whole thing being down there. I could see doing it there, but
I would rather, on a personal note, I mean, especially if you're from the U.S., I'd much rather, even though it's not super inexpensive, it's less expensive for sure, and you're not flying to, essentially what I consider to be almost like another world. And there is some degree of recourse when you're dealing with a real professional like Dr. Reyes. And it's still less expensive. And you get, to take a vacation as well. So, as what were you? You're in the Bay Area. So actually it's probably about, let's see, from California. It's kind of a long flight.
14 hours?
Down to DR, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's that long.
It's not 14 hours. It's probably 8 hours.
Go there for a month maybe, or 3.5 weeks, and just hang out down there and get it done, and hang out down there maybe for a month, maybe 2 months.
Are you kidding me, man? You get a girlfriend every day for a sandwich. You'll have the best time.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe that's the kind of, and hey, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I could see that. But other than that, you guys are truly the AA, I think, to me and a lot of other people who listen to you, to kind of get jolted back into line about, because we think about it, we veer, we get weak, we want to do it. Something happens in our lives, somebody says something, we go out and we feel terrible or whatever, but then you listen to you guys and go, wait a minute, okay, take a deep breath, okay, everything's all right, except for going down to the Caribbean with Dr. Reyes. I could kind of, man, I'll tell you, of all the doctors I've seen, we just looked at their websites, I don't know who does her photos, but boy, she's a rags to riches. She's phenomenal, just based on her pictures. I mean, you can't maybe tell, but just from a layman looking at it.
Well, I will say that, I mean, with all due respect, you get excited about a lot of doctors over the years. And I would say, listen, she's an IHS member. She's absolutely one of the best. She's been doing this for a very long time. She cares about her patients. She has a good staff. I mean, at least the people that I know of, staff, things do change over time. But it's a good facility. And you're going to be in safe hands. So to me, if you're going to travel to get a hair transplant, you want to at least know you're going to be safe. And the DR is really close. If they have to, what is it called? Air vac you to a U.S. hospital, God forbid, it's, whatever, 2.5 hours from New York or 3 hours.
At least there are no bombs landing over there. There's no war going on over there in any event. Dude, I guess we can say that.
That's right. Yep.
I could tell you, man. And if you're Jewish, you're safe too. So I mean, I don't know if you are.
That's right. Well, yeah, and believe me, I am, and it's justified. Well, the war now is justified, but I don't want to get. It's not a war, by the way. What's going on over in Iran is not a war. It's not a war. They're painting it as that. The far left is saying that, but it's not. It's a necessary operation.
Look, dude, as soon as I bring up the Jewish stuff, we got to talk about the war. I'm Jewish, too. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about hair.
I know. But let me ask you about
talk about hair.
Now, there is there's a hair doctor here in the Bay Area, in the East
There's a few.
Bay, a lady. I'm not going to mention her name, a woman.
Sarah Wasserbauer.
Sarah
Wasserbauer,
you just mentioned her name. so she emails this stuff, and you guys have never mentioned it on the show. And I'm just looking at her email right now. XYON''S Siloxys System. SILOXYS System.
Yep.
Gel offers as a targeted control release treatment for hair loss, and she says at Rite Aid pharmacy bankruptcy. So I've never heard you guys mention that before.
Well, it's just a topical DHT inhibitor by Zion Health, which is from Dr. Hassan here in Vancouver, and a partner that he brought on board. It's just a topical finasteride or dutasteride.
So I guess their game plan now is to kind of get doctors, well-known hair transplant doctors, to carry their product and to sell their product, similar to what Nutrafol does, except this is with a prescription product. I personally think that it's probably in the best interest of the physician to, work directly with a compounder and maybe make their own compounding product, know exactly where everything is coming from. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Zion, at all. But I don't love the idea of physicians kind of pimping out subscription-based products. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah,
it does. I'm fine with it as long as they have some sort of degree of transparency about the source materials of the core ingredients, just like with anyone else.
Yeah.
But unless they do that, honestly, to me, it's no different than pushing, laser caps and things like that, where the outcome is ambiguous. Sometimes it works. And to be fair, I know doctors that are a part of the program, and one specifically that even uses Zion on his own scalp for his hair loss, and he seems to be fine with it, happy with it. But yeah, it's like if I want to get some sort of declaration of authenticity for the core ingredients as far as where they're sourced, you can't get it.
Yeah.
So
and that's
kind of disappointing.
That's one of my issues with all of these products, and that's why we have not provided trusted brand status to any of the subscription-based products yet. I mean, right now and I talked about this before, there's one company, it's a startup. They're willing to give complete transparency, provide everything that we need in order to see where their products are being manufactured, where they're sourcing the actual drug, and a lot more. But we'll see. We'll see if that comes through. I mean, so far it looks great, but we have not provided our seal to anyone. And
do you think this doctor, Spencer, is getting a little, I don't like to use the word kickback, but some kind of commission by posting it on her site and emailing it out?
It's not a commission. I'm sure listen, everything works on margin. So these doctors are selling it. They're part of the program selling it out of their office, just like people who are selling Nutrafol or whatever. So yeah, I mean, whatever the margins are big enough where these physicians are able to make a profit selling it out of their office. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just reality. It's business.
Okay, it was an unsolicited email from her, though.
I'm not. Listen, I know. I understand these doctors have to make a living. They send out newsletters, all kinds of stuff. I mean, so at one point you must have given her your email address. So if you're on that email list, man, it's not unsolicited until you cancel it. Until you say, "Listen, I want to opt out."
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm on a few email lists, and you're right. They all do send a lot of emails. They do. Yeah, and so even Dr. Bauman, he sends for a while he was sending almost one a day on a different one. He kind of stopped, and I think after a while he stopped. But you're right. Yeah, I am on their email list. Okay.
These people in business to make money, like anybody else in any other brand of medicine or any other business. That's the way it is. It's unfortunate that hair loss has been so commoditized, but it's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? We kind of work within the parameters that we have to work within. And those parameters are, in general, this is a really shitty industry. There's a handful of really good surgeons out there. Some of the best surgeons out there are selling shit as well. And we have no control over it except to tell you guys what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And if the doctors don't like that and don't want to be associated with us because we're being honest, then that's their loss.
That's right. No, I know that's again, and they do it in a way that offers a ray of hope. You know, they kind of they do that. The email, they jazz it up and everything, and they kind of it's marketing. It's all out of that. I had never heard you guys.
To be fair, that's usually
before.
the marketing companies that they hire to do that for them. You know,
And also, to be fair, all these topicals, and this is a good topical, it helps people for sure. It's just one brand that's out there. It
doesn't even say what it is. It doesn't say the email disguise. It doesn't say what the chemical is. It doesn't say what it is. It just says that system gel offers a target release for hair loss. It's like it doesn't tell you what it is.
Well, why should they tell you what it is? You'll ask too many questions. You want to put topical dutasteride on your head? A lot of people wouldn't want to do that.
Okay, all right. I just done it. No, I know, but
no. But what I'm saying, I don't mean to say. I'm busting your chops, but that's the way these people think. That's why for years, and you're old enough to remember this, the Bosley commercials would show hair, an animation of hair magically flying from the back to the balding areas, like a cartoon, like it was magic. You know. And it's a simple outpatient procedure. There's nothing less simple than hair transplant surgery. Nothing. Maybe, removing some, a mole or something or burning off some stuff. But as far as a surgical cosmetic procedure, this is the furthest things from simple that exists in this industry, in all of cosmetics. It's the most nuanced, difficult, elegant form of surgery, and that's why so many people are effed up. And so many people are walking around looking like idiots or feeling even more insecure than when they decide to go under the knife.
And it's all to try, in most cases, I have a theory, it's to try to look better for women, to try to look better. I think I would be interested if they did a study to see how many single men are doing it, versus married men. I bet you the majority are single and maybe middle-aged.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of married men, but a lot of guys are single. Now the market is really geared towards young men. And we're talking about super young, like under 30. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we live in a society where aesthetics for men is just a huge thing. These guys are trying to get aesthetic.
And getting bigger.
Yeah, everyone's jacked. Dude, I went down to the gym, and it's funny. I put my T-shirt on, and I was wearing sweatpants, and I'm like, wow, I look pretty jacked, for an old guy, and I feel pretty good about myself. And I go downstairs, and it was like after work, I guess, and so there's all these young guys, like these like TikTokers and super wealthy kids, and they're totally jacked. I mean, to the point where it's like, this is ridiculous. Like I'm in Gold's Gym all of a sudden. And all these kids are on the gimmicks, man. They're all on gear. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it if you need it especially, but now it's almost like a rite of passage for every kid in their 20s.
It's required. Yeah, for sure.
And that's contributing to baldness, and that's contributing to these young kids going overseas to get these hair transplants.
Yeah. And I will tell you that when I'm ready to get on the gear, and that could happen, I'm just going to shave my head. I've decided I'm going to go on Harry's channel, Bald Cafe, and I'm going to do it on Bald Cafe. And I'll still do the show.
You'll never do that, Spencer. You'll never do it, Spencer. Dude, you'll never shave.
You never know.
No way.
Dude, I'm telling you, the other day I was getting very frustrated. And I'm like, I'm painting my bald spot. I'm putting a hairspray on. I'm like, So I started to take some images of myself. And I pulled my hair back and I just covered my head with my hands. and just to see how I look bald. And it's like, it wouldn't be terrible, especially if I got super jacked. I'm 60 years old.
But Spencer, you give the advice to people to look at a hairpiece. Why wouldn't you go maybe look at a hairpiece first before you did that? Wouldn't you? That's what you tell people.
I tell people who have the mentality that I've had for 40 years to do that. But I also tell people the best course of action, the first line of attack, should be to try shaving your head, because then you're free.
Yeah,
you're free.
You're free of your hair. You've got no hair anymore.
Now, I may, if I did that, I may all of a sudden be like, hello, cool piece, and then, I have to glue something on, and be freaked out. But I don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to shave my head. Listen, I've been holding on to every hair for dear life for many, many years. But it does cross my mind as I'm getting older. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
don't get all upset.
I don't know.
Don't get all upset on me.
I don't think. I don't think. No, you have enough hair. I don't think you're going to get to that point unless you start doing steroids. If you trade that in, if you're getting weaker when you get older and you feel like you need it, then maybe you will. But you never will.
Dude, I'm dealing with some retrograde alopecia now, which could be also senile alopecia. There's a drug that I'm considering trying that if I do this, I'm going to write about it. No one in the hair loss world is using it yet. So it would kind of be like me when I started using finasteride before anyone else was. And I'm considering it. And the only reason I'm considering it is it's a very minimal kind of low-dose vasodilator that doesn't really cause telogen effluviums, but it may help with maintaining what I have. Theoretically, we don't know. I'm talking to a doctor about it right now. You guys will be the first to know if I decide to do it, and I'll write all about it. But, yeah, I mean...
So what do you think about Nutrafol, then? What do you think about Nutrafol? Because there's a bunch of commercials about that. It's all over the Internet. So I'm going to make
this brief, then we're going to take another phone call. I was the first person to write about nutritional supplementation, herbal supplementation, as far as lowering DHT or potentially blocking DHT, or at least blocking both type 1 and type 2 5-alpha-reductase and lowering the conversion. And I wrote about this in 1998. Every doctor poo-pooed it. One doctor who was going to write the foreword for my book initially said he can't write the foreword anymore because I wrote this nutritional chapter, and this is nonsense. Guess what? He's selling these products now. So with that said, I was always a old school believer. But just like with finasteride, you have no idea where this stuff is being sourced. You have no idea if it's really standardized extract. This is a company who is not, let's put it this way, they have not provided us, the American Hair Loss Association, with any transparency or full disclosure. With that said, there is a company who has. It's Advanced Trichology. We accepted him into our trusted brand program. It's been 4 years already. Is it 4 years? 3 years, since 2022. It's a very similar product, except we know where it comes from. We know how it's manufactured. It's half the price. Physicians can't really do any markups on it, so it's not being sold through dermatologist's office and shit like that. So if you're going to use something natural to give it a shot, then that's how I would advise you.
Advanced Trichology? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have a couple of products that I think are reasonable. Listen, I wrote about my use of these supplements or these herbs back before Proscar was available to me. As soon as Proscar was available to me, I got on the drug, and I noticed a vast improvement. With that said, I think for some men, if you can lower your DHT just enough, it may be of some benefit, and you might be able to avoid getting on the drug. But there's no guarantees.
One more quick question. Do you think there's anything to any kind of placebo effect? And others taking something that doesn't work, but because psychologically you think it might work, could it improve your hair? Is there a psychological component to any of this?
There's a psychological component to any medication, any product, any drug, anything. So if you believe something's going to work, then there's a good chance that, well, not a good chance, but there's a chance that your mind can make it work. And that goes in the opposite direction for all these guys who are super concerned about adverse side effects using finasteride. If you think you can't get it up, you can't get it up. If you think that, you know, there's a chance if you stop this medication that you're going to have post-finasteride syndrome, then it's possible it's going to happen to you.
That's
all right, brother?
Good advice. That's good advice. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, you take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good hearing from you, John. Take care.
888-659-3727. Where's my brain today? Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, Spencer and Joe. This is Tammy from Chicago.
Tammy, how are you?
Tammy.
Hey. Hi. Do you guys remember me?
Of course.
Yeah,
we don't have a lot of women who have the guts to call in. And I also remember your voice and your name.
Oh, okay.
And your story. So how you been?
Yeah. No, I'm doing better. You guys have really, really helped me a lot, so I definitely want you to know that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. You really, really did. The medicine, I started finasteride, and I really slowly titrated up to 5 milligrams a day. So I've been on that since October. And then I started oral minoxidil in December, and I baby stepped it because I was so afraid of a shed. And I'm just I just got to a half a pill daily, which is pretty recent, but so it's a 1.25 dose, and I'm still working my way up to a full pill. So no shedding.
That's
so
great.
That was good because, yeah, definitely. The anxiety that I had over this and the OCD, and I still have it, but it's gotten better.
Okay,
and,
so how many months since you started minoxidil?
So, I started it in December, but, I baby stepped it. I took a quarter of a tablet twice a week, and then I bumped it up, once a week. So I only got to a half a pill, which is the 1.25 dose, just a month ago. So it's not long enough, really, to see, but there's been no shedding.
But normally when people start the medication, they're put on a full dose, and they may see shedding within 8 to 10 weeks or less, sometimes 6 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I called you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's amazing. That's
thank you.
That's good to know. And I think a lot of guys who are listening as well may take that route, and maybe you can mitigate the major shed. And once your body gets used to it, you're not kicking your hair into a telogen phase to get into an anagen phase right away. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the way I thought of it as well, was by not jumping on the high dose right away, which was initially prescribed to me a year and a half ago or 2 years ago almost. I was afraid to take it until I talked to you guys about the finasteride, and I thought, well, titrate up on the minoxidil, and then it won't have as much of a jolt to the system.
Yeah.
But it's been going well. So I'm on both of those meds. I have seen, I'm the one with I have the temples, right? The male pattern in my temple area. So I've been to 3 different transplant surgeons so far, and 2 of them are the IHRS physicians.
Right.
And the one that I feel most comfortable with is Shapiro.
Okay.
So I went there a year ago. They did a trichoscope, and I just went back there last week to do another trichoscope. And I did get to see Dr. Run, and he said that I, do qualify for the transplant. So I did schedule it for next summer.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, what did the trichoscope tell them? Did you see any improvement in overall density? Is the miniaturization reversing at all?
they didn't go into details about it, but what I did learn, and there's good news, is that there are no other areas on my head that are thinning. So it's
great.
really the temples. So that's what the trichoscope was able to share, which made me
great.
feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a very good donor area, so that all feels really good. And so,
you may you may actually make a great candidate. I mean, you may be one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So I have it scheduled for next June because I work at a high school, so that way I'll be off during the summer and I'll have the time to kind of like recover.
Right.
And they're booked out anyways, actually, until next June. So they're booked out.
Well, unless you're on the waiting list, and then you get a phone call in a month. But whatever. That's the way it works.
I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I figured let me just, and then that gives me, then I'll be on the minoxidil for a full year by that point too, I think. So, so that's where I'm at with everything. It is going to be Dr. Josephitis. Yeah, I was really happy, honestly, really. And I'll tell you, they're fantastic at that office. They haven't charged me a penny so far. And they've spent considerable time with me, like on several occasions. And they're the only doctor out of the 3 that I met with office that follow like the protocol that both of you recommend with like making sure you're taking the medication. Like they didn't even look at me last year to say if I would qualify for a hair transplant or not. So,
well, I'm glad you're comfortable with them, and I think you're going to be in good hands. There's no guarantees with any surgery, but I mean, given the way you're describing your situation and the fact that they took a look at your entire scalp, they mapped for miniaturization, and they're saying that there's no other part of your scalp where you're spinning my mic, where you're losing hair or miniaturizing. That makes you a good candidate in general. So at least you know that the hair that they're going to move will most likely continue to grow, which is great.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, a year from now, who knows what the medication is going to do, though? You may be like, wait a second, this minoxidil is growing my hairline back.
That would be great.
Yeah. So you may not need surgery. So it's good that you're waiting.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Because I want both of your opinions about it, because you've really helped me even just to get to this point from a year. Like I couldn't work for a year, so I because of the fear of like really having a progression. So it kind of spun me out into a terrible anxiety. So
I'm really glad. I'm really happy you were able to find us, and we were able to give you some hope, and you were able to take solace in that. And it's great that you are you're doing well on medication, and you haven't had any adverse effects. And like I said, you may actually. I've seen some miracles on these medications, and you may not even need a transplant. So
that would be
may
great.
Be perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So I had that's my hope. That's my hope, Spencer. So I do have a couple of things to run past you both. I know it's a far time out, but there are 2 add-ons if I end up doing the surgery that are offered. And I mean, in my mind, I would just do them if they're beneficial. I mean, for me, I'm not focused on the money, and it's not even that much of an add-on financially. But one is A-cell, and the other is hydroluronidase that's supposed to help with elasticity because I would be doing a FUT.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this:
what your thoughts.
If these were both agents that would benefit you, why wouldn't the clinic just provide that to you as part of the surgery instead of an add-on? Just charge you for it within the surgery and say, look, this is what we do. So in my mind, if you're going to get better results and the clinic thinks you're going to get better results and heal better, then why wouldn't they just provide it to you? I don't know what your thoughts are, Joe.
I don't like the look of add-ons for surgical procedures where the add-ons are supposed to make the outcome better. It's like, okay, we'll be happy. Yeah, we'll be happy to do the surgery for you. But if you want to actually be good,
Yeah. That's
you
what
got
I,
to use this.
that's
and
what
you
I was
gotta
trying
use
to
this.
express. Yeah.
And I understand why they do it, but I think it's kind of a shallow way of looking at things. And this goes for any clinic. I think that they're not thinking it through when a salesperson in the clinic, or, consultant or their marketing team says, "Hey, I have an idea. Eureka! Let's offer upsells." It doesn't make sense to me. So I look at it like this. If you have something that you as the physician feel can benefit your patients in the procedure that you're already offering, jack up your price by $500 and include it.
Well,
That
hold on.
way-
Am I going
all
crazy, or did I just say that?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. Look, I'm getting old. I thought I was. Maybe I didn't say it. Go ahead.
He is 60.
I'm old too.
But it's like, why
all
not?
good.
Like, it's just it only adds to the used car salesman image that this industry has compared to the greater medical community at large.
Look, that's why I say I did a video on Instagram about PRP as an add-on to hair transplant surgery. And my whole thing is, look, if it's going to benefit a patient, if they're saying you're going to have a better result with PRP, why are they going to upsell it? Just add it into the surgery. Make it, instead of making an extra $1,500, charge an extra $750 for the surgery. No one's going to know. Or you can even charge an extra $1,000. And this is the cost of the surgery. That includes PRP, this, that, and the other thing. And everyone will just pay for it because they're going to have better results. If the clinic really believes you're going to get better results. So I question that. I'm not saying not to do it, but I would tell Ron may be listening to this. I don't like that sales tactic either. And that's exactly what it is. Surgery should not have upsells.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're going to have a bad result. Doesn't mean you're not going to a good clinic. But they're very old school with that shit, in my view.
I will say this. Hang on, Tammy. I need to add this to it, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like a clinic that's been around for 30 years with a stellar reputation, before ACell and hyaluronic acid were even available for this, like they didn't build their reputation on results that came about because of these add-ons. They built their reputation on results from doing good clean surgery. So that's another thing that I think people don't realize when they're doing the research. It's like, oh, well, here's a menu list of add-ons to make sure I have, the greatest outcome before, or the greatest outcome possible. But they don't look back 5 years ago when the clinic wasn't offering any of this and they were cranking out great results, every week in their before and afters. It's like, is it really that different? Is it really necessary? I don't think it is.
Okay. I will say though, like I feel like it's important. Like they weren't trying to sell it to me or anything. It was just it happened to be on the paperwork when I got the email that in like small print that
sell.
These were add-ons.
Yeah.
So it is. It wasn't like they weren't pushing it. Yeah, it was, and it's not what like one of the other clinics that I had a consult with offered the same thing, and it was like it was over $1,000 I think for the ACL, and this was only like a couple $100.
Yeah,
so
and like
I will say big difference.
And like I said at the beginning of the program, the only reason these doctors are associated with us is because, or at any time been associated with us, is because they do good surgery. I wish the industry was different. I wish it didn't operate in the manner in which it does. And even though it was a soft sell, again, I'm going to repeat myself, if these agents actually created better outcomes for their patients, these are their patients, they should be included. That should be part of the protocol, no matter what. That's just, and that just makes sense. So I'm not saying not to do it, But I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's, like Joe says, it's probably not necessary. I would say it's not necessary.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
if it makes you feel more comfortable and it's not going to break the bank, then, do what you want to do.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's just I was wondering what you both just thought about, I guess, like the effect, like would it matter as much? But it sounds like...
I don't think it matters at all. And I think that this stuff has been overhyped for years. Joe is one of the first guys, if not the first guy, to even discuss ACell as far as hair transplant surgery on The Bald Truth, I think, many, many years ago before he was even on the show. Maybe online, I don't remember. And I had Jerry Cooley on, all the players with the ACell. And, honestly, man, and I had a guy that sued me, my first lawsuit 30 years ago, he was the first guy, right? Gary Hitzig with ACell? Was that Gary?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, he contacted me. He's like, look, I know we've had it passed, but I was the first guy to really discuss this in hair, and I'm not getting any credit. And I invited him on the show. Everyone got really excited about it. Turned out to be a big flop, in my view.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm just
wasn't
saying.
the first to talk about it in hair. I was. So
you were, yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, but he was probably the first to utilize it, if not you, because you weren't a surgeon.
Okay.
So
I wasn't a surgeon.
Yeah.
Joe, did you have it when you did yours, or did they do it on yours when you had your transplant?
No, I don't believe I ever had ACell in any of my surgeries. I did have ACell in the one PRP procedure I had when I was visiting Dr. Cooley 9 years ago. It was part of the cocktail that he put together, among other things, and it was effective. I don't know what the ACell did, but the PRP procedure treatment that I had, it was effective to a minor degree because we didn't expect much, and he told me up front. I mean, we did it just because I happened to be there doing my documentation and review of his clinic, and I was very fascinated by it. It was when it was probably at its peak, as far as, I won't say its peak, but it was the hot topic online, and he was at the forefront of it. I mean, he's a regenerative medicine specialist by his early training. Like when he was at Johns Hopkins, he was one of the things that he was studying in his dermatology residency was regenerating hair follicles. So he's got a long history with this. He understands this quite well. And so I trusted him with his approach. I trusted him with some of the things that he told me he feels is contributes to effectiveness of his PRP. He's also very honest. Like, it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes it's mild, sometimes it's extreme. He showed me the documentation on it. ACell was part of his PRP protocol, his cocktail, and I said, let's try it. And he was up front. He said, it probably won't do anything. If we do get something, it won't be extreme. I'm like, okay, great. Let's try it anyway. So we did. And it was a noticeable improvement in the areas that we did apply the treatment. And ACell was part of that. I don't know. I have no idea what it contributed to the overall outcome.
Yeah, I understand.
And neither would anyone else. No one would know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Tammy, I'm so glad. I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to ask, but I'm so glad that you're doing well. You sound really good.
Thank you.
And very helpful.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah. No, you guys really helped me a lot to get to where I'm at. And I'm thankful because I'll tell you, when this first came up, and I think I said it before, like, I just wanted, like everybody else, I'm sure, that is calling and listening, you just want it fixed. You want to make it go away. And it's like, you can't. It's like you're in a nightmare. Mm-hmm. So, so you guys helped me out a lot. So thank you. I do have one last question.
Sure.
Your thoughts on, now, I've been told, and I don't want to forget this. Dr. Ron did say to tell you both hello because I did mention you all when I went there. So I wanted to let you know that. And I also feel like they're really by the books clinic close to what you did. So I really want to,
I'm glad.
like, my appreciation for them. Yes. The last thing is the red light therapy. I've been told by doctors, because I have so much hair on like the top of my head, like it's all the temples, right? So do you think that there's any reason for me to try doing like a red light therapy in those temple areas?
No.
Okay.
No, you have
Thank you.
basically a full head of hair with a recessed hairline in the temple area. I mean, it's not going to grow that back. And you don't want to put yourself in any potential harm's way of causing an effluvium. Right now, you are titrating onto your medications. You're doing well. And if the laser treatment that you choose works to any degree, you can go through a shed.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Okay. Great.
Don't mess with it. You're doing good.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you both.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good
I
luck.
Really appreciate
Take
you.
care.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Good hearing from you.
All right.
Take care.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Tell Ron to send that check, by the way. 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Comb over's looking slick today, brother. I'm talking about me, not you. You don't have a comb over. You got
as far as you know.
Well, whatever. I mean, listen, anyone who has a hair transplant has some degree of an illusion happening.
Yes, 100%.
That's just the way that it is.
Illusion feels good.
Sorry, people. I'm sorry, young guys who don't believe that this is an illusion or veneer of hair. But in the end, no matter how densely they pack that scalp, that's what you're going to end up with. So in my view, it's better to get it done in stages, get it done safely, make sure that hair is going to grow, and don't risk your scalp essentially dying from necrosis.
Ooh. Da-na.
Which is happening. I've been in this industry for 30 years. I have never seen so much necrotic tissue on the internet being displayed for all to see. I've never seen. I'm talking about. We were involved in the main forums back in the day where thousands of people were getting transplants. If you saw a case of necrosis, it was like, what? It just didn't happen.
Oh man, it was. If there's even the word necrosis or necrotic tissue mentioned in the same sentence, much less like a paragraph of a doctor, all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Batten down the hatches.
That shit was over.
We need to fucking fight back against this or damage control or whatever, because that was the kiss of death.
Now you see it on Reddit, and the Redditors are like, well, it can happen.
Yeah.
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 Just like donor shock loss. I love that one. That is the best.
Guy's got like a gap where you can see what he's thinking. Like, it'll come back, man.
Yeah. Oh, you're fine, man. That's just donor shock. Do you know how rare donor shock was? At least, you were in clinic, Joe. So it was probably like you probably barely ever saw it, and you were doing strips back in the day. It was so rare. And usually it was around the stitches or the staples. It just you didn't see it. Now they talk about it on Reddit like it's a real thing that happens.
It should be expected.
Yeah.
Like it should be expected.
Brother, you have microvascular disruption that will eventually, even if the hair grows back, sadly, that hair will eventually miniaturize. That's it. You're done. And most of the time, it's not going to grow back fully. I'm sorry.
It could miniaturize as it's growing in for the first time.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, people. If you want to believe that that's normal to have donor shock, you are living on a different planet.
I'll just say this.
Guys, hold on. We'll take your call in a second.
If you're talking to a doctor and they talk about your aftercare being like day after surgery, including hyperbaric chamber activity, like you spend a couple hours in a chamber, ask them why they brought that into their clinic. and if they had problems before they had it, which necessitated the use of it. It's not a cheap investment for a clinic to bring in a hyperbaric chamber. Just saying.
That's actually not a terrible point. I mean, I do believe that there were a few clinics that kind of introduced it early on before they were doing these massive FUE cases. However, it was rare. And honestly, it's kind of like a contract. When you fill out a contract and you see all the craziness in that contract, that what could happen, including acts of war and God, it's because this shit happened before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
These kids are so stupid, man. I'm sorry to say it.
Use your head, people.
I'm sorry to say it.
Ask smart questions.
I don't mean to sound obnoxious, but I'm just so. These kids, especially on Instagram, like they yell at me about me just telling them the truth. Look, I'm sorry. This happens. Go over to Reddit. Hang out over there. Because the information that we provide is not what you want to hear. Joe, if you didn't freeze, that is the best act I've ever seen, by the way.
I did freeze.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to call back in. So give me just 5 seconds.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hey, man, you're on. Well, let me take the phone call. I have to press the button to say hello. Hey, caller, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, fellas, how's it going?
Good. Who's this?
It's Ash. I'm calling from the UK.
Ash, what's happening, brother? Yeah, Joe
Ash, what's up?
Joe is. Hold on, Joe. Your camera's not on, by the way.
Of course not. Jesus.
So what's happening, man? He could hear you.
I just poured a whiskey now, and I gotta tell you, I was on Instagram looking to see when Joe was live and you boys were live, and all I could see was a sea of boobs on my Instagram feed, and I think I've been boob washed. Kind of like a brainwashing.
It's very odd.
I gotta be creative with the thumbnails for the next show. So what do you do?
It's very odd because when I saw Joe's feed, it was all. I'm not going to say. I was going to say
hang on.
Chicks with D's, but you can't say that anymore.
I think it's a condition. It's all I see now.
It is. Honestly. That seems a lot healthier. My feed, it's all necrotic tissue, bad hair transplants. But whatever. I guess if a woman wants to check out your feed real quick, at least she knows I'm intimate with what I do for a living.
Anyhow, look, I'm
up?
grateful I got through to you guys. I didn't think I would, but I've got two questions.
Yeah.
And one was for Joe. And the other was for the pair of you. I just thought, if I start with the one for the pair of you, how's that sound? Is that okay?
Yeah, well, Joe's back, so let's see. Yeah, so go ahead.
There we go. Yeah.
It was to do with vitamin D. Now, I'm aware of how important vitamin D is. And with regards to hair loss, just what's your experience in general? Because I basically upped my vitamin D intake of late, and I've noticed I've gone through a shedding. Whether this is coincidental, I'm not so sure. But I do know that, it's really important in terms of your hair's health and your overall, immune system as a whole. I'm just wondering, if it was to raise my free testosterone levels, would that impact my DHT levels? Or would finasteride still, like a 1-to-1 ratio, combat the volume of free testosterone, if that makes sense?
Well, what do you think the likelihood of increasing your vitamin D to healthy levels is going to actually raise your testosterone?
And I just thought, because we can categorize vitamin D as a hormone, right?
Right.
Yep.
And I think that if overall you boost that, then surely you boost your testosterone levels as a result. Is that not true?
Not necessarily, and I've actually never heard of that. We can check it out. Joe can check it out now. And, what I do know is that there's no doubt that insufficient vitamin D has been shown to actually trigger male and female pattern hair loss, and also once someone gets to a normal level or to a higher level, or a healthy level, there seems to be a cessation of hair loss over time. Now, it's possible that upping your levels quickly could have put you into an effluvium because your body's kind of adjusting now hormonally. But I don't think it necessarily has anything to do directly with your testosterone or your DHT. Joe could maybe look that up, I'm not sure. But from what I understand and from the most recent research, upping your vitamin D levels and maintaining maybe something between 60 up to 100, what is it, nanograms per milliliter?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. There's
two measurements, isn't there? Is it nanomol per
deciliter?
Something.
Or do you say I don't know why I can't remember that, Joe. But anyway, it's really shown to really benefit people with their hair loss. So there have been, especially in women who have not responded to medication, but they've responded to a prescribed dosage of vitamin D to get their levels up to a reasonable point. And then they just went on vitamin D supplements, D3 supplements. They've done well. Mm-hmm. So I've never heard of anyone go through an effluvium from vitamin D, but I guess anything is possible. I mean, how much are you taking?
I've upped it to 4K international units a day, but I take it. What I do is I take it as a vial at the end of the week. So I've got it as like vitamin and a K2 supplement as a liquid form, and I just load it up on a piece of bread, and it comes to, if it's a full pipette full, it's 30,000 international units a week. Which, if you do the math, I think it's just over 4K a day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I basically kind of go from 10K a day, 10 units, 10,000 units a day, and then I kind of switch down to 5, and I just adjust my levels throughout the year. I've never heard of anyone going through an effluvium from vitamin D, unless, I guess, perhaps if somehow there's some sort of toxicity, but that's unlikely, even though you're taking like 30,000 units at once.
I can't point to any specific case where that was going on, but I can't help but remember something about someone telling me that when I remember hearing, I don't remember the details, but something about telogen effluvium and vitamin D fluctuations as far as intake. I don't remember. This is a long time ago. The only time I heard something, I think that there was a correlation that this patient was trying to make, and I didn't think that it was valid at the time. This is many years ago, because I'd never heard anything about that before or since then. But being basically a hormone and being a something that affects your testosterone levels, maybe. But back to your original question. How does that affect DHT production if your testosterone levels are rising? That's the same type of question that people ask when they're on testosterone supplements and such as well. And when you're talking about DHT production and finasteride or dutasteride inhibits the conversion of existing testosterone into dihydrotestosterone on at specific percentages, or is what they talk about in the studies. I think that's regardless of how much testosterone is in your system at the time. So if you're taking, and this is debatable. I've heard doctors say a couple of different things, but if your testosterone is at one level and then it starts to go up higher due to whatever reasons, and you don't change your finasteride or dutasteride intake, I don't think that's going to make a difference unless it's very extreme as far as the change. Because no one says that your finasteride level or your finasteride intake is based on whether or not you have below or above X number of numbers for your testosterone measurements. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think the confusing part for me personally is the battle with free testosterone equals more DHT, but it's not necessarily the case, right? Because I guess that.
Well, keep in mind,
will-
sorry to interrupt, but keep in mind, the main thing that we're talking about when we're looking at DHT and hair loss, it's not so much the amount of DHT as it is the amount of sensitivity that the hair follicles on the cells in the hair follicles have to that DHT. So I think it's kind of a mistake to talk about or to think of it as the amount of DHT in your system as opposed to the sensitivity of your system to the DHT.
Gotcha. Right.
Yeah, and also I just did some.
Just the way I look at
I
it.
just did some quick research, and yeah, I mean there is a correlation for men who have a better vitamin D levels. They end up having slightly higher testosterone, but it's pretty negligible. But there is an improvement. So, who knows? But Joe, I think what Joe just provided you is pretty accurate. I mean, it really is about your sensitivity to DHT as opposed to your overall DHT levels. So that's why I was talking earlier about nutritional supplementation like, Pygium africanum, stinging nettle, saw palmetto, and all these DHT lowering herbs. Some men only need to take that, and maybe they'll lower their scalp DHT by 20%, and they're pretty good. They're able to take these natural supplements as long as they're taking the same supplement and it's actually a standardized extract and do pretty well. Where, I would say that a good majority of men eventually need more a reduction because they're more sensitive, to DHT. So, yeah, Joe, I think you provided a good response, a good answer. Now, let me ask you this. How long have you been shedding and how much hair are you shedding every day?
Only recently, but it's hard to know if it's coincidental, right? Because I only wash my hair once a week.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How do you get away with that?
A lot of spray. I'm lucky, like you fellas have spoke, about in the past. I was losing my hair in my early 20s, and at the time I was working behind a bar. And I did actually shave my hair at one point and try and bear it. But it didn't suit me. I didn't quite get on with it, so I grew it back, and then I found Propecia, jumped on that, and like you say, it hit the pause button. So I'm one of the lucky guys.
That's great.
So I have enough hair to sculpture something from.
Yeah, but if I don't wash my hair every day, I mean, I would say maybe I can get away with one day without washing my hair. But if I go 2 days, man, it's completely see-through.
I got to tell you, man, I can see on the stream, it looks gorgeous. Your hair looks gorgeous, man.
You are a very kind gentleman. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
It's a good heavy comb over, but it works.
Yeah, well, I've got my mate said to me at one point, he said, he calls it a baboon's arse, but that's what I've got, the formation of a baboon's arse on the back of my head. But, I work with it.
Listen, man,
what works, buddy?
How old are you now?
43.
Okay, so you're doing good.
Yeah, look, I can't complain. It's like I said, I can sculpture something, and people think I've got a full head of hair when I put a bit of fiber, a bit of pepper on top.
Yeah,
and the job's a good one.
Yeah, listen, it could be exhausting sometimes, and it's interesting. I brought up Harry from Bald Cafe at the beginning of the show as well, and he's been doing some videos talking about the psychological issues of kind of hiding under these fibers and doing everything you can, and he's showing himself spraying his head with spray on hair and all this stuff. And I think when you get to a certain level of baldness, you got to give in. But if you're mentally prepared to deal with a little bit of a cover up, and you can still get away with looking or feeling comfortable in your own skin with the hair that you've been able to save using these products, I think these products are great. Mm-hmm. I think they could be life-changing, and it's not, to me, it's not hiding. Listen, I'm not hiding because this is what I do. I talk about it all the time. But to me, it's just kind of like, look, you rather live this way for now while you can. So why not enjoy the hair that you have? And if you can enhance that a little bit, what's the big deal?
I personally see it as a routine. You know, some fibers here and there doesn't hurt anyone. No one knows. You know, I've got really good at hiding that shit now, so I'm a bit of a pro at it.
I mean, we may get like mesothelioma or something eventually, but who knows? Whatever. We look good.
That's right.
Yeah, to hell with it, right?
Yeah.
But my second question was to Joe, really. I mean, Joe's been in a seat, as you phrase it, Spencer, a lot of the times, a fair amount of times and had hair transplants.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, Joe, when, I tune into your show and I've learned a lot from you guys, so I've got to thank you.
You're welcome.
But, when you talk about holding off for as long as you can, and that's what I'm trying to do, hopefully at some point, like you say, AI might crack it and we might have a better treatment. I don't know. But, Joe, you've been in the seat, you've had surgery. What's your sort of experience with the longevity of the follicles that have been transplanted in your head? Do you notice them thinning out over time? Everyone says that this certain, what is it called? The occipital region in the back of the head is it's more DHT resistant.
Mm-hmm.
How have you noticed over time your hair? Has it thinned, the transplanted hair, or has it maintained well?
That's a great question. I'll be honest with you. About 6 weeks ago, I
had a mental
probably
breakdown.
had the big. No, that's a different one. I had probably the biggest freak out about my hair that I've had in 20 years. And it was ongoing, and I wasn't actually freaking out, but I was absolutely cognizant of shedding that I've not had in a long time. And I'm not talking about massive like a telogen effluvium or anything, but I was noticing, like I'd be, brushing my teeth or something, and I'd see a little hair just floating down, and I'd look at it and I think to myself, what in the actual fuck is that? That's not normal. Because it's not. Like I'm not used to seeing my hair falling right in front of my eyes. I'm not even used to seeing it like in the sink. Like it just doesn't happen. I'm not one of these guys that looks down and I see 5 or 50 hairs in the bottom of my tub. It doesn't happen to me. It was starting to happen, and it I won't lie, it bothered me.
It happens to me, and I'm like ready to shave my head.
And it made me start to look at my hair more closely. And I think if I'm going to be honest with myself and with everyone, I think that there is a degradation of, I won't say the number of follicles that are growing, but I will say maybe in the quality of some of those follicles as far as the diameter, because I am getting older. I'm not 60, for fuck's sake.
No,
Jesus Christ.
thank God.
But I'm 55. I'll be 56 in the latter half of this year, or in the latter half of this year. And I am noticing some subtle changes. Are they groundbreaking or deal breaking or mentally devastating to me? Absolutely not. I still have a lot of hair compared to where I was 23 years ago. I can still style it in different ways. You guys normally see me with the style that I have now. Every Friday without fail, just like my black shirt. It's the same every time. I might have different hairstyles a little bit, but what you don't see is the way I wear my hair sometimes off camera.
Straight down the middle.
Bangs.
It's wild, man.
Straight down the middle. I put on my black horn rim glasses.
Yeah.
I put on some fake freckles. But I'll have bangs. Like I'll just kind of let it dry, flowing forward. And I might spray it just so it doesn't blow all over the place when I step outside. And it looks good. And I'll stop myself sometimes looking in the mirror. I'm like, shit, I can still do this. So, yeah, I'm happy with it. And I don't think that there's been really a big change. I have noticed a couple things like that, seeing some hairs shedding, but for the most part, it's really no different than it was 10 years ago. And, just to remind everyone, my last surgery was 6 years ago. It was an FUE of about 700, 800 grafts. 100 of those were put into my occipital donor scar. The rest were put into key spots of my crown, just kind of bulk it up a little bit. And that's it. Before that, it had been another 19 and then 10. It had been 9 years since till my previous surgery, and that was my hairline, just for a little bit of bulking. So,
So to make a long story short,
no, that's not possible. It could be argued that I'm not giving my hair a chance to kind of thin out naturally because I've had top-ups, but it's not really accurate because it's been for specific regions that didn't degrade to begin with. It was just, a continuation of my hair greed, adding to what I already have. But there's been enough time going in between those surgeries where if there's a difference to notice, I'd see it. And since only my crown was addressed 6 years ago, and it's been 15 years since my last surgery before that, combining all that, everything in the middle, donor area, it's all pretty much the same. Maybe slightly worse, but not really something that can be quantified.
I got to stop doing this show. I got to get out of here. I really do. I'm just going to shave my head and just move someplace, and no one's going to know who the F I am. I'm going to get on. I'm going to get on the gear.
I've had retrograde alopecia for as long as I can remember in my nape. The back of my scalp, I'm sure it's gotten worse, but not terribly worse. But I can't grow my hair in the back longer than just a few inches before it starts to look bad.
That's starting to happen to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been the case for me for at least 25 years. But the rest of my hair, this is what's wild. I'll never forget when I first realized this. It was around 2007 when I was really, or 2006, when I really started to grow out the top of my scalp with longer hair. And you can see pictures on my website after my third surgery. I was really getting crazy with the length. And I realized then the hair that was in the occipital and sides of my donor area grow longer when they're on the top of my scalp than they ever did when they're on the back of my scalp since I was a teenager. I find that fascinating. And it's just one of the strange little idiosyncrasies of how donor hair behaves after it's been moved to the recipient area. It changes based on blood supply and signaling, cellular signaling of those regions. I find it fascinating. I completely forgot about that.
It's so compelling, it's unbelievable.
I'm just looking at boobs on Instagram. Not really.
Okay, fine. Fuck it.
No, Joe,
you asked.
I honestly, right, I value your transparency. It's so refreshing. That's how I know I can trust you guys. I see a lot of shit online, and the way you guys tackle this subject is like no other. It's peerless. So thank you for your honesty.
Thank you.
And I guess would it be safe to say then, and take it, that in your experience of hair transplants, that you never get, it is best to hold off till you're a bit older, but ultimately it's never a one stop. By that I mean it's multiple surgeries to keep
for most people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell people don't go in expecting that you'll only have one surgery ever. Knowing in the back of my mind that there's a chance for some people that it will be their only surgery, but for the most part, the vast majority of people will need at least one more surgery at some point. Sooner, maybe later, I don't know. But for a number of possible reasons, it will happen for most people. If they have one surgery, they'll have a second.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Can I ask one more question, or is my time up?
Your time was up about 10 minutes ago. Joe took it all up with this story. Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead,
Just
man.
one more, one thing I was just thinking about was when you get your donor area and you have that first surgery, I'm just wondering, how does that impact the native hair around the grafts that are extracted? Because obviously on a vascular level, if you were to put it under the microscope, surely it would destroy the blood supply to the neighboring grafts that are left.
Yeah,
so do they thin out over time?
You have a microvascular disruption right after surgery, and it takes time for your body to remodel. And that's why I am adamant about when these guys are moving 10,000, 12,000 grafts in 1 or 2 days, and you see these incredible results from these great mechanics online, and, they're really being heavily promoted on Reddit and all these forums. The reality is no one talks about this microvascular disruption. And the more punctate wounds you create, no matter how refined they are, the more overall surface area is going to have problems. And when your body starts to remodel and that skin starts to regrow and the vascular system the blood supply starts to come back, there's going to be more fibrotic tissue throughout the entire back and sides of the scalp. So for most people, there's going to be some degree of gradual hypoxia. It's going to be less blood supply, less oxygen, less nutrients. So there's a much greater chance of miniaturization throughout that entire area over time. With that said, there are relatively safe parameters you can work within. 2,000-3,000 grafts in one shot. Then the doctor should wait, see how everything is looking. You can actually check it. You can have a kind of like a sonogram type of a situation, handheld, if you really want to be thorough. But most doctors won't do that. They're just going to say, yeah, donor looks good. We can take more out from here. We can take more out from there. Joe, you froze again. Oh no, you didn't freeze. You were just being pensive. So, I think that's a great question. No one really asks it. It was different in the days of strip, where there's definitely some vascular issues, but realize it's done in a straight line. Sometimes it was concentrated. It took some time for the body to heal, to remodel, for the feeling to come back, because you're essentially cutting out a piece of tissue, for the nerve to reconnect. In most cases, they did. But as far as the disruption of blood supply, it was a much smaller surface area that was being disrupted. So most of the hair above and below that strip, pretty much virgin. They're not suffering from potential hypoxia or nutrient deficiency, which no one talks about. But that's just the truth.
Yeah, well, to me it seems, after giving it further sort of thought, if you like, you do think about the trauma after the surgery, because ultimately it's like a hole puncher in the back of your head.
That's correct.
It's 8 millimeter. Is it an 8 millimeter tool that they use?
No, 8 millimeter would be a huge punch. It's 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, or 1 millimeter, 1.2 at the most in some cases, which is large. But yeah, they're small punches. They seem very delicate. And also, I have to say, the smaller the punch in general, the less tissue you're going to have around that graft, even if they're able to remove that graft intact. And now we're finding out that if these grafts are really denuded, if there's very little tissue around the bulb, they may eventually take on kind of like a recipient site dominance. There's not enough, stem cells and, not enough of a buffer to keep it growing like it would if you had more tissue around it taken from your donor. So there's all kinds of problems with FUE today. FUE was never meant to be the procedure it's being marketed as today.
No.
I will never stop saying that. I don't care what our friend in Atlanta says or whatever. It's bullshit.
Ray Woods himself, who who invented modern day flicker unit extraction, told me that himself at dinner 9 years ago. We had a really good talk about it, and he said this when he told me this, my jaw hit the proverbial floor. He told me that he would rather see a good strip surgery than a modern day FUE the way it's being done.
100%.
For him to say that, number one, it showed me that he does have a good head on his shoulders, and number two, it shows me that he can admit when he's wrong, because he used to say that in no situation is strip surgery warranted. Period.
Well, here's the thing. He was doing such small cases, and a lot of his cases were repaired of bad strips that were done in Australia, even in the U.S., but in general, just really bad strip procedures. Where guys were stripped out. So he's moving 500 grafts, 400 grafts, 300 grafts. And, so maybe overall he was able to remove grafts, excise grafts from areas that no one else was able to utilize before to repair these really effed up patients. And then he was doing relatively small cases, guys with moderate amounts of hair loss. I told him early on, I'm like, listen, this is a great ancillary procedure. It's a great procedure. When his guy came into my studio in New York, and it was the first time that we went on the air and talked about it, and I saw a live patient, I was really impressed. It looked like he wasn't even touched, but he only had about 2,000 grafts moved. So I would tell guys, even guys like John Cole and everyone else, listen, you got to learn how to do this. But it's, originally I'm like, this is a great ancillary procedure. This is going to save a lot of lives. It's going to change a lot of lives of people who believed they were hopeless. Mm-hmm. And they just took a chokehold of this mother effer and turned it into scarless hair transplants, and the rest is history. And now we're seeing more walking wounded than we ever saw, even in some of the worst days of strip. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
By far.
I've witnessed one so far of a sort of, he's a friend of a friend, and he had work done and just doesn't look right, and when something's wrong when no one posts a picture on Facebook since the day of the surgery or a few months after, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he's not happy with it.
Yeah. And you're going to see a lot of guys who are happy for the first year, 2 years, and some guys are going to have great FUE-only surgeries. They exist. There are doctors. Listen, there's several members of the IAHRS, and most of what they do currently is FUE because that's what the market wants. This is really, in my view, one of the only fields of medicine where the patient dictates medicine.
Yeah.
Right. It's all marketing. FUE in the right hands is a great procedure, but it's just one procedure in hair transplant surgery. In my view, it should not be the dominant procedure. I spoke at a conference for restoration robotics before it was taken over before the robot was taken over by Venus Concepts, and it was recently just acquired by a Korean company. And they expected me to praise the robot and all this stuff, and I told them straight. The first thing I told them when I was speaking is I would never have in my current situation, I would not have FUE surgery. Because in all of these physicians' mind, and everyone they were trying to sell this robot to and all this stuff, FUE was being sold as this new state-of-the-art hair transplant technique, when in fact, at the time, it was already 15 years old or 12 years old or something like that. And I want to explain to these guys, even though I'm consulting for this company, I wouldn't sit under that robot, and I wouldn't even have FUE because I had a lot of donor at the time, a lot of hair, it was long, and if I decided to have surgery, I would want 100% of my sweet spot to be utilized, and the only way to do that is through FUT. So it was a CEO and a salesman, everyone was just sitting there with their mouth dropped open and their jaws hanging on the floor. They did not expect to pay me to speak to say that, but it was the truth.
Mic drop.
Yeah. But it wasn't a bad, to me, it wasn't a bad thing. It was like, look, this could potentially become a good device. FUE is certainly becoming the dominant procedure, but it shouldn't be. And these are the reasons why. You know, I wanted these doctors who were getting involved in this to understand that there's going to be patients that are going to make better candidates for strip surgery. Why would you not provide them with that opportunity when you could really help somebody? And you could do a hybrid of strip and FUE. But that's not where the market went. So what are you going to do?
Personally, I feel we should be really grateful for you two guys doing this, because one thing I've learned is I've been to see a few surgeons, you know, because I was dipping my toes in, toying around with getting a hair transplant, and I thought, let's go and see, get a few consultations, it won't harm. And I got to be honest with you, I won't kiss and tell, but I've been to a few, and when I've name dropped you two guys, I've seen a few raised eyebrows. And the reason being, I know these guys think that you're keeping them on their toes and you're keeping them in check, which is important in an unregulated industry. And it's nice to see people who spit the truth and don't just spew marketing out, especially at kids and everything else. It's so important.
Usually when people tell me that story, they say the doctor turned white.
Well, it made me laugh. I went to see one guy, and I could just see they were like, how have you heard about us? And I went, well, I spoke to Joe and Spence on their show and stuff, and I just saw a few eyebrows raised around the room, and I went, no, I'm on the right track here. I know I can trust these guys.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, it made me smile. I went, I know I'm in the right crowd here.
Now, what were these physicians that we talk about and recommend in any way, or are these physicians who are not part of what we do?
No, they're part of what you do. I got them off your website, but
okay.
I won't kiss and tell, but it was just one of those moments where I went, I'm definitely, these guys I can...
You're like, oh, shit, we can't do the upsell now.
Yeah.
We can't tell the laser.
Shit, we can't offer ACell or PRP. We got to include it.
Yeah, but I did find it amusing, and it was kind of like, right, these guys, you know, we're so lucky, fortunate to have people like this, because you're few and far between, right?
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know why we're not getting more views on Joe's page, though.
Because you need boobs.
Because we're the best.
Clearly. You need boobs on there.
What was that?
You need some boobs.
We do.
Like my Instagram feed.
We
need some boobs. Exactly.
Yeah.
But listen, man, we appreciate the call. I'm really glad we were able to help you, and you know, I appreciate all the kind words. And it you know, hearing this makes me want to continue to do what I do here, even though every time I turn on this mic, I'm like, why am I here?
No, I get to a Friday, and I personally, look, I pour a whiskey, and I know you fellas are on, and it's like, I was saying to Joe, I texted you, I inboxed you on your Instagram. I sent you that BBC link that didn't work. They're blocking everything from external sources.
Oh, that was you. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, they're even trying to block the sun. It's gone crazy over here. I don't know if you saw that.
They're trying to block the sun.
They actually are.
No, they actually are.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Evil stuff.
Yeah.
But I got to be careful what I say, right?
What about all the? I see the chemtrails. That's real. That shit is real, man.
That's good.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is getting his hands into everything.
It's a modern day Dr. Evil, man. It's unreal.
Unbelievable, man.
That's good.
All right, brother. Well, listen. Enjoy the rest of your night. I feel like having a whiskey myself, actually.
Oh, it's awesome.
I'm ready.
Get on it.
All right, brother. You take care.
Yeah, you
take
too,
care.
guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
You want to take one more call, Joe?
Well, I gotta share what today's topic is. We had some great calls and never got a chance to actually talk about the hair loss trials. So, caller, stay on the line. This won't take long. It's a small update. So we all know about the firm that Google Ventures is backed, which is amazing in and of itself, that Google has gotten involved with this. It's called Pelage Pharmaceuticals out of the U.S. They just announced positive phase 2A clinical trial results. And I didn't have time to put together my own summary of this, so I'm just going to read what I've got here online. Novel new hair growth drug. The trial entails 78 men and women with androgenic alopecia. The key quote from this, from the results of this phase 2A study or trial, PP405 induced new hair growth follicles where no hair was previously present, offering early validation of its regenerative potential. Note that the trial participants just had 4 weeks of treatment. At another 4 weeks after the completion of the treatment, quote, in men with a higher degree of hair loss, unquote, 31% of those treated with PP405 exhibited a greater than 20% increase in hair density. In comparison, 0% of patients in the placebo group responded favorably. These results are increasingly rapid in comparison to existing treatments, which is true. Pelage expects to begin phase 3 trials in 2026. They'll likely have no issues with fundraising. I'm sure that's the case. And just a quick shout out to Hair Loss Cure 2020, American Hair Loss Association Trusted Content Creator. That's from his website, which is where I get all of my future treatments information. I suggest that you do.
Now I have to give these guys a call.
Yep. Exactly.
Not for the show, but for me, personally.
See, why not for the show?
I will just buy a tub of it.
Why not for the show?
I'll spread it on my head like a chia pet, get that shit back, and just move on with my life.
And then shave it off on Hair Cafe with Harry.
And then let it grow back.
Or Bald Cafe. Sorry.
Bald Cafe.
Sorry, Harry and Kevin. All right. We still got a call?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's make it quick.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? We got to make it quick. And where are you calling from? What's up, caller?
Hello, hello.
All right. Later.
He's
That's
gone.
it.
All right.
No more calls.
You had your chance.
Call night. All right, guys, listen, thank you so much. That's a very exciting update for PP405. You know, I'm very cynical and jaded, and I've seen it all and heard it all. This does seem a little bit more exciting just based on who's involved and the fact that they're somehow able to grow hair on completely bald areas where there was no hair from a topical. Mm-hmm. That seems pretty interesting. Now, will the hair cycle? Will it turn into, you know, a robust terminal cycling hair? I hope so.
Can you braid it? That's what we can hope.
But I can't wait another 5 years, man. 5 years. I'll be 65.
Move to China. China. You'll be able to get it quicker.
I will.
Yeah, you do that. CRISPR gene editing. We'll see about that one.
I'll go by way of the Philippines, pick somebody up. Go over to China. You know, I'll just do like a whole Instagram of me, like, you know, getting my hair back completely, growing it long. You know.
Oh yeah.
That'll
be an interesting Instagram.
My Filipino girlfriend and my visiting angel will be all having dinner together.
Lots of boobs on your Insta. The real deal.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to go.
Right.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I want you guys to have a good weekend. And, yeah, until next time, be strong. God bless. And thank you guys so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.